The end of the year can be frustrating for real estate agents. They set big goals in January only to find out by the end of the year that they're not going to make the income that they thought they would. It's so common for agents to start out with gusto and energy and have a big sales goal. But by the time they hit September, October, November, they realize that there's no way they're going to accomplish what they set out to do. I found that there are two main reasons that this happens to agents. The first is that they start with no plan whatsoever. They don't have any actionable steps written down that are going to get them from point A to point B. The second problem real estate agents have is they don't track where they are. They don't know throughout the year whether or not they're on pace to hit their goals. That creates a big problem, and it makes agents kind of work only up to a certain ceiling that they can't get past. I help real estate agents break through that ceiling all the time and earn more income than they ever have. One of the core foundations of our coaching is the business plan process, which we share with you today in this webinar absolutely for free. Elise and I break down the process that we've used to grow multiple businesses. I've used it to grow 3 six-figure businesses in just 3 years as a real estate salesperson, as a team leader, and as a real estate investor. So this can be applied to anything. Make sure you watch the whole thing. The beginning talks about how to plan and where some common lead sources are. It also breaks down your sales per quarter and helps you make targets that are more achievable than just thinking about a big sales goal like 30 or 40 units sold per year. We help you break it down monthly and quarterly into actual actions you need to take to get those deals. About halfway through, we explain the income calculation process, and we help you take your income goal of $100,000, $200,000, whatever it might be, and transfer it into units. That way you have something that will an easily measurable target rather than trying to look at income every single month. You can focus on sales volume. At the end, we go through some best practices for tracking and following up and accountability and keeping yourself to the standards that you're setting in January. That way you have the best year you ever can. If this content's helpful, hop into Skool.com, search for Reinvest Real Estate, or hit the link below. We have an entire channel that's dedicated solely to business planning. You can get in touch with me, Elise, and so many other members in there that are happy to help you with your business growth.
I'm excited for today. I think we've got a little bit of a different twist on things.
Yeah.
A really good turnout for tonight. I'm very excited about that.
We figured we'd do really quick introductions just in case you've never been to a Reinvest event before, and if you've never heard of us, that's okay. That's probably most people, I'd say. So my name's Lou Raven. I'm a real estate agent, an investor, a mentor, a flipper, a developer. I do all kinds of cool stuff in real estate. And I'm one of the co-founders of Reinvest. Elise and I started Reinvest about 3 years ago as a way to kind of just elevate our leadership, get our message out there a little bit more, and help agents. And we've been holding in-person events for about 3 years now. We just started doing webinars last week. We've had great success with this webinar in particular, and it's kind of the basis of how we got started. We've taught this business plan format for the last 3 years, and it's helped people literally make millions of dollars. It's changed my life too. I built 3 six-figure businesses in 3 years using this format. You can use it for your sales business. I use it for my team, for real estate investing. I use it for personal stuff. If you know me personally, you know I had something really big and crazy that I had to overcome a couple of years ago, and this format helped with it. So I'm really passionate about it, and I'm so excited to be sharing it with you guys tonight.
Awesome. Well, Lou and I have been friends for a while before starting Reinvest. He's also actually my mentor. My name is Elise Palacios. I have a few of my own businesses. I also invest, had my cleaning business since I was 11 years old. I've got my real estate sales business. I'm currently in the Bahamas. So if my service is a little bit spotty, I apologize, but I'm here starting an investment project that'll be a good short-term rental. So today was a really awesome day. We finally got concrete on the ground. So things will hopefully be just tumbling downhill from here, hopefully.
I was excited to see those pictures. That's awesome.
Island time for just about everything. But I'm still able to work while I'm here, which is really exciting. I still do a lot of mentorship. We're able to do these webinars and still, I make a lot of calls and things like that while I'm here. So I've been able to leverage my business enough where I can be far away and still be actively a part of my business, which is going to be a big part of what we go over later today about how acting as a business owner gives you more freedom with your life.
Awesome. Yeah, and that's a big part of what this webinar is all about. It's all about lifestyle design, having the life that you want, having a business that you run, not the business running you. And we've all been there. I mean, don't get me wrong. There have been plenty of times when I'm being run ragged by something that I created and you're like, oh my gosh, how did I get here? And how do I get out of it? And I'm hoping that this helps you guys if you're kind of in that solopreneur, technician, operator mode, hoping that this helps you transition out of that. So we have a couple different examples for you today. We have one that's about sales and about lead generation. So you can see how to use that for your sales business. We have another that's about investing and getting started there. And we have one about leadership and upping your leadership game. So we've talked enough. We're going to just get right into it.
Yeah, Luke kind of touched on exactly what we're going to be diving into. Kind of our first segment here is why do we actually create a business plan, which is pretty much what we already mentioned, of giving yourself the freedom to put your time to be in a really effective ways that work on your business rather than being stuck doing the daily, not so fun tasks. So as he said, the day is going to look like, or the next hour, we're going to run through some examples, give you a brief overview of the actual plan, which is what we teach at our in-person events, something that we thought up that's a pretty good combination of a lot of different systems that are already in place that a lot of the other really smart people use, but we tried to make it very, very simple. Our whole goal is to give you actionable steps that go right into your business. So rather than giving you this big picture that's kind of hard to grasp, the plan formula is super, super simple and really easy to follow for all parts of your life. So we'll dive right in. And if Lou, you want to take it from here?
Yeah. So the plan formula is a lot simpler than the tech thing. Hopefully everybody's good now. I had some crazy, we're working it out. We got a new system here. Okay, so the plan formula is really, really easy. And we came up with this because I was frustrated with some of the other formats. I feel like they just kind of stop short. So most people know SMART goals, that's specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. My problem with SMART goals, though, is that they stop there. They don't get into the nitty-gritty of how are you going to actually accomplish the goal? Like, what are the steps that you're going to take? So I thought, well, there has to be a better way. And, came up with the process first, then backed into an acronym, and it happened to be planned, and that's kind of cool. How it lays out, you'll start out by saying, I will blank by blank date. Now, it is intentionally in future tense because it's saying that you will do something, you're going to accomplish it. Not I want to, or I think I can, or it'd be nice if. I will make $250,000 by the end of 2024 by selling 27 houses at $375,000 price point. We've got an example that's somewhere around that numbers wise. But you can see that that's an extremely specific purpose. The limit is the date, and then the actions are what you're going to do to meet the goals. The actions you're going to take. So in the sales example, you may have 3 different strategies. You may have as many as 4 or 5. You may have fewer, depending on what type of goal you're setting. And what's really important about planning is that you track what your actual results are. You want to track a couple things, both the actions that you're taking, those are often your leading indicators, and then the results themselves. So when we talk about sales, your leading indicators could be number of calls, number of appointments set, number of appointments taken, and then your lagging indicator is dollars in your bank account. And that's one that we all track no matter what.
If this video has been helpful, you've got to take advantage of all the free tools that we have in Skool. Go to skool.com/reinvestrealestate or click the link below to get started. In there we have business planning resources that you won't have to recreate on your own, all for free. It's our gift to you. Enjoy.
So as I mentioned, we're going to touch on the actual plan formula. I think it's really great. Lou's mentioning specifically a sales example, but you can even dive in and make each one of your actions a plan in itself. So what we'll do is we'll send you the slide deck after we're done. So don't worry about taking notes or anything. And what we'll also do is we'll send you a couple of blank plan kind of worksheets, if you will. So you can actually write in, we'll show you roughly what to do, but you'll be able to actually hopefully implement a little bit. And we'd love to see what you're doing. So send it back to us and we're happy to give feedback and kind of go from there. Lou's also going to dive into the income calculator, which we'll explain when we get there. And then also just a couple of ways to actually track your data. As he's saying, anybody can set really big goals, but even if it's just a matter of tracking your steps before you see that outcome, you've got to track something to feel good about what you're doing, to kind of have that little win along the way, to keep your head up until you get to the actual results and dollars in your bank account. So the 2 examples, the first one's going to be the sales one. The second one is going to be a little bit broader. We're going to touch on how to get started in investing, or if somebody, if you have 1 or 2 properties already and you're looking to diversify, kind of just helping you get in the right direction to take those next steps. And then also just touching on leverage. And again, Lou does this way more than I. He's helped several agents build teams and really leverage their time really, really well. Again, I'm starting out leveraging my own time more so than my full team just now, but it's good to have multiple perspectives for sure.
I mean, you were 13 or 14 when you hired your first employee. So I'd say that you've been employing leverage for quite some time now. You're doing it in different ways. And yeah, give her a thumbs up. I saw that in the chat. Thank you. I'm loving seeing the reactions. That's great. Lets me know you guys are out there and listening to us and liking it. So the plan formula, like I said, here it is. Purpose, I will, by blank date. You're laying out 3 actions. The actions will be then broken down into tasks, and then you're going to track your progress. So this is it again, just so you can kind of see the big picture before we get into the nitty gritty of a sales example. So in this example, the agent wants to earn $250,000, and they've calculated that they'll earn $250,000 by selling 30 homes at an average price point of $375,000. And that's 11 million in sales. And they're going to do that by the end of 2024. To meet that goal, I will A, market myself as an expert. A2, I'll host an open house. Most open houses rather. And 3, farming the Twin Pines neighborhood, just a place we made up that does not exist. We had that question at year 1. We're like,
probably does exist. It's just not what we're talking about. Being a disclaimer.
Pretty much. And then I'll track my progress by using the habit tracker for lead gen activity and using a deal per week tracker. So we'll go through the number side of it, and I'll show you some examples of how you can actually figure out the number of sales that you need to, complete. We'll do that a little bit later, but for now, just trust us. The math is right. You need to figure out how to sell 30 homes. You have 3 different main actions, and then we break down each one of those actions into tasks. So action number 1 is market myself as an expert. I'm going to start here. If you're a new agent, know that you are already a real estate expert. You have taken a 60-hour course about selling real estate. So you are more of an expert than anybody, the vast majority of people in your network. So just, kind of put that, if you have that hang up in your mind, I'm new, people are going to know it. No, they don't. It's fine.
So we don't know everything. Everybody's always learning, and you're never going to be at the point where you're confident in absolutely every scenario.
Exactly. I mean, consider 3 years ago, we threw this event, we got on a stage, we're like, hey, we've got this thing to teach. We'd never done it before. I mean, it's going really well, but at some point you just have to step out and be the expert. And I talk to my agents about this all the time. It's important that we think of ourselves as real estate experts, not realtors or real estate agents, because we do so much more than just help people list and buy homes. We are full service, from A to Z, everything in between. So you're going to market yourself as an expert, and we have just 3 tasks for that. First one is digital education, posting 1 educational video per week on social media, going Facebook Live at new listings, showings, home inspections at least once per week, and sharing success stories. So past clients, agents you've helped, businesses that you've had interactions with. These are, again, just a few different examples. And you can go really deep with this. You can obviously do many more than just 1 video per week. This whole process is about finding the plan that's right for you. You might sit there and say, I hate social media. I never post on there. Well, okay, replace this action with something else. There are about a dozen ways that you can generate business in real estate.
So I really like that last example too. Even if you're brand new or you're not confident in what to share about the market or things going on, talk about, hey, I just hired this electrician at my house. They did a great job. Like, I love seeing local business owners really care about their customers. It really resonates with me when I help my clients with real estate, and just tie it back to what you do know. You do not need to go out. If you're uncomfortable with something, talk about what you do know. If you like food, talk about food. Something about your community that's going to tie you to your potential or hoped for client, rather than what you already think you should know about the real estate community. But action 2, along with your sales, go hosting open houses. I actually have a whole training on this. I think it's quite fun. Was I always fantastic at hosting open houses? Absolutely not. Did I totally blow a couple? Absolutely. And that's fantastic, because I learned and failed and got to a really good point. I would say, obviously host more, build strong relationships with agents in your brokerage who you're able to host for. That's personally following up, and think of them as a scenario where you're trying to win a client over. What are you doing that's different, that's better, and why should they want you there hosting their open house rather than the other agent that they're friends with? So that, and then master the conversations that you do have. You have a very short period of time to leave a very good impression. It's not quite the same as layering on to a relationship with clients or past clients. You have a very small window to command the room, have enough of a presence where people are looking at you with a sense of authority, which if you haven't hosted open houses or you feel like you're not at your max potential, you've got a whole workbook of steps you can do from days before to the day of, and then at the actual, 2-hour window where you're there in front of people. So there's a lot more that goes into it. My favorite part is really learning how to master those conversations, or also speaking loud enough where the conversation that I'm having with somebody, I want somebody else to overhear and pick up on. So becoming really skilled in how you manage a room will really help you make that time especially effective, especially as we're going into a spring market. If you have a really busy open house, there are only so many conversations you can have. So I like to gather people together, speak to something. It's a few pain points that I've picked up in my early conversations, tie it back, and try to have as much of an impact as I can on as many groups there as possible. Unrepresented, preferably. If they are represented, I want to find if there's a pain point with their current agent-client relationship that I can touch on, whether directly with them or indirectly while I know they're listening. So all really, really good things. Again, this is a super quick overview. One of my other favorite things is having a personal connection. I like to ask people what they're doing that weekend. Tell me, you've submitted offers, great. What kind of offers have you submitted? I want to know if it's somebody I actually want to work with. Just because somebody's standing in front of me ready to buy, you should get to a point where you get to pick and choose. If they're telling me they've been submitting offers that are $20,000 under asking for the last 2 years, they're either grossly uneducated or they're probably a complete nightmare to work with, and I don't want to waste my time on them.
Yeah,
so getting to
clarify too, make sure you're always respecting a buyer brokerage agreement. If that exists, again, you don't want to get into that territory, but you may have, many times there are people that are looking in the spring, summer, and then they get burnt out, and then you meet them early next year, and they're now switching again. So let's just to make that one quick distinction.
Yeah, absolutely. It's mostly like if they've submitted offers, we're getting a lot of buyers who have been searching for 2 or 3 years. So if they've been searching and they were having really bad luck, and I'm asking, hey, what kind of offers were you submitting? And they're like telling me the terms, and I'm realizing that there's a lot of gaps that I could educate somebody on. I want to tell them what could possibly be different from what they already know. Because again, I want to win that future client for sure. But absolutely, if somebody's currently signed, don't cross that line.
Yep.
But
and I love some of the strategies that we have in that open house document. So if you guys want that, drop the word open house in chat. We'll email it to you after. But it's like a 7-page document that talks about all different types of ways you can lead generate, from door knocking and sending flyers and farming an open house area, just always doing open houses in one specific area. The goal of the open house should always be to get at least 1 seller and 2 buyers. When you make that your goal, you make it the expectation, you find a way to make that work. So make sure you go and see the neighbors beforehand and call and be the different agent. That's what's going to win you business.
Farming the neighborhood leads right into that. You can either farm directly from an open house saying, hey, it was great to meet you the other day, or you probably saw our sign. If you're obviously hosting an open house for your same brokerage, leverage the listing that your brokerage has, say our, or you probably saw our recently sold, and just talk about what's already going on that they're seeing. If it's a neighborhood that you live in, find something and do it really well, even if it's just a small area. If you send out 1 mailer to 1,000 houses and that's all that you do, you're not going to have a lot of success. And we have one of our agent friends, Adam, does this really, really well. And he says, you don't really see the direct results right away. And he does far more farming than I think both of us combined, Lou. Yeah, but it's really cool. We're learning in the conversation the other day from, what they were doing. And the golden letter, just general, just sold, holiday recipes, lots of cool little tricks you can do. Go on.
You want to touch on the golden letter? People may not use, we use the golden letter all the time. Our team's really familiar with it, but explain what that is a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yep. So especially in a low inventory market, the golden letter is essentially saying, hey, homeowner, I have clients looking in this neighborhood. Reach out. It's helpful if you really do have a real client. Be honest. I wouldn't recommend making something like that up. Use your client's name. Ask your clients if it's okay. Say, hi, I've been working with the Jones family for 2 years. They love this neighborhood. It's really close. They're trying to stay in the same school district for their kids. Like, give some sort of narrative where you're actually becoming a little bit more personable and they want to reach out to you because it sounds like you have a real client. Make that connection and they will hopefully reach out far more than if you're just saying, hey, I just sold this, and that's all you're doing. Recipe, personal touch, anything holiday related, you're likely going to hit a little bit more of an emotional connection.
Yep. So next up is the income calculator. And this is where I lose some people. So I'm going to just say from the start, if you hate math, just hang with me for a second here. I want to go through and show you how you can get the exact number of sales that you need to do to put your desired amount of money in your bank account. And I say that because realtors are notorious for fuzzy math, where we'll, calculate some things, but not work in all of our expenses, for example, or we won't factor in our splits, or if we have an adjusting split, we don't take that into account. So we end up coming up with this goal, like, I want to make $200,000. Well, how do I do that? And they end up coming up with math that isn't really accurate, so then they end up falling short of their goal. Well, you do that year after year after year, and you end up just believing that you can't make $200,000. And I'm here to tell you, you can. It's actually relatively easy. You have to do the work, but it's simple. It's not easy, I should say. So this income calculator, simple spreadsheet I made, if you are wondering what your numbers are after, I have a QR code in there that, we can hit a quick 15-minute call, and I'll just, pop your numbers in and show you what they are. So here it is, the Reinvest Sales Income Calculator. It starts out by, you plug in just those numbers in yellow, your income goal, $250,000. Your average commission in most cases is 2.5%. Brokerage split is 80%. Capping volume. So this would be if you're at a brokerage that has an adjusting cap. EXP has a cap that when you have paid the brokerage $16,000, you go from 80-20 to 100%. So that's all that cell is. So if you have an adjusting cap, you put that number in there. And if not, then you just leave that blank. And then this gives you the sales volume to meet the income goal. Now, the problem with this is your sales volume to make $250,000 gross. So that's before all expenses. And this is where agents get in trouble. So they fail to factor in how much it costs to run their business. So typically we'll use a number that's somewhere between like 10 and 30%. I think 10% is pretty good. It's pretty reasonable, for a lower cost brokerage and model. It all depends on, how big your staff is, how many people you're employing. And that's what's kind of fun about this, is you can play around with each different input and see how the sales that you have to do changes. So you can see that where our goal was originally 10,160,000, well, we have to sell about an extra 1.1 million in order to cover our operating expenses. So then what does that look like? What does that actually mean? This is the part that matters. How many homes do I actually have to sell to put 250 grand in my bank account? So the last part is plugging in your average sales price. The average in Connecticut right now is about $375,000. So this is simple. All it does is it divides that 11.1 million number by 375, and it shows us that we have to sell 30 homes this year, which isn't that bad. I mean, it sounds big, but when you break it down, it's not that bad. Keep in mind, a year is a very long time. A lot of things happened to you in 2023, and hopefully you made a lot of things happen in 2023 as well. So when you're going into 2024, you want to be really clear about, well, what do I actually have to do this quarter, this month, this week? And this is the formula. In general, most people's sales patterns will follow this pattern. You'll typically close 15% of your annual sales in quarter one. You'll close 25% in quarter two and quarter four, and you'll close 35% in quarter three. So you can see that this table just breaks down that volume and shows you how much you need to close per quarter, both in terms of volume and units to sell. So you take this big goal of 11.1 million. You're like, oh my gosh, the most I ever sold was 8 million. And that was in the height of COVID when, everybody was buying houses. How am I ever going to make $250,000? How am I ever going to sell 11.1 million? Well, you chunk it down. So you take those 30 sales per year and you multiply that by 15% in quarter one. You realize you only have to sell 4 homes. It's a little bit more than 1 per month. Quarters 2, quarters 4, you're selling 7 homes. It's like 2 homes per month, a little bit more than that. And then quarter 3, you're going to be hauling. You got to sell 3-ish homes and change. What's important about this is this also helps kind of like inform your activity. If you just think really quickly about the spring market, what's important about the spring market? Listings come, right? With listings, so if you're looking and you're mapping out your year and you're doing this in December or January, you start to realize, well, I need 10 sales in July through September. Well, guess what? Now's the time to start lining up your listings, get those signed. So that way you're not trying to get 10 buyers under contract between July and September. So in a lot of ways, this model will hopefully help you think bigger and, kind of get a little bit more strategic. And the full work have a quarter by quarter, set of activities to do, by the way, to set up the next quarter. So definitely hop into the workbook after this and take a look at that. Again, like I said, some people hate math. I absolutely love it. I'm just one of those weird people. I don't know why. So I built the spreadsheet and I'll go through one example really quickly. We did this last time and it worked out pretty well getting to show somebody their numbers. So, okay, we've got some examples here. I'm going to just pick out one. Let's go with, so $150,000. And so they gave me $150,000, 2.5% commission. We'll stick with that. The brokerage split is 70%. And do you have a cap? Do you have an adjusting cap at your brokerage? Okay, looks like no. So we'll take this out. And this is the amount of sales that you have to do to earn $150,000 at an average of 2.5% commission and a brokerage split of 70%. You have to sell 8.5 million worth of real estate. And then we'll factor in our costs next. Do you have a rough idea of what your operating costs are? Most people don't. It's okay. That's all right. Okay. That's fine. We'll just use, 10% I put in for my EXP because we have like a pretty low cost model with transaction, coordination teams and stuff like that we can employ pretty inexpensively. I'll put in 15%. It's a little bit higher. Some people are running closer to 30%. If you're running a big team, you have a lot of payroll, get with me later. We'll go through an example. So let's say you have a 15% operating cost. That means you have to sell 9.857. And what's your average sales price? 300 grand. Okay. All right. So then at $300,000, you have to sell 33 homes. And that breaks down to 5 in quarter one, 8 in quarter two and quarter four, and 12 in quarter three. So take a snapshot of this first. And then I want to play around with the numbers a little bit. And this was, what was fun last time, is playing with the inputs and kind of figuring out what small changes to your business will do, to make things easier. So let's say that you can get your average price point up a little bit, just by 10%. You're going to be a little bit more selective with the buyers that you're working with. Maybe those buyers that are $150,000 or $250,000 and below, you decide to start referring out so that way you can spend more time prospecting for higher price listings. That's one strategy I recommend for every moderately established agent. If you've been doing it for 2 years or more, you absolutely need to be doing that and thinking like that. Nope. 3.3 million would make your life a lot easier. What if we go up 30 grand, right? And we go up to $330,000. So all of a sudden you went from 33 sales a year to 30. Now let's play with some other inputs. I'm really big on 6% listings, and funny story. So like Elise said, I'm her mentor. And a lot of ways, what I love about mentorship is you're just learning all the time from the things you're doing and from the people that you're working with. And I get lessons all the time. And one of my favorite ones, and you're nodding your head, I think you know what this is. We were prepping for a listing appointment. We're talking about, how do you describe next steps? What's your close, so to speak? Do you use a timeline? And we're talking about commission percent. And she's like, yeah, 6%. I'm like, okay, cool. So how do you go for that? She's like, what do you mean go for it? I just always sign 6% listings. I'm like, what do you mean you always sign? She's like, I've never signed less than 6%. And I'm like, what am I doing wrong? You know what I was doing wrong? I had in my mind that the market is 5% listings. Well, no, the seller will pay whatever value you provide. And we provide exceptional value above and beyond the average agent, the average 5% agent. So that helped reframe a lot for me. And I recognized that I was worth a 6% listing because we're spending money on all this crazy stuff like Matterport and, whatever. So long way of saying, if you've been signing 5% listings for a while, get with us about that too. We'll help you try to increase, and you'll see exactly how important that is. So let's say
just having that uncomfortable conversation, I think, is where a lot of people don't want to even start. It's not even about getting to the point where a seller says no or questions it. It's about not even saying it because you're so scared of having that uncomfortable conversation. Exactly. And in this business, you're going to have a whole heck of a lot of uncomfortable conversations. And that's just a part of it. And getting comfortable with the idea of somebody telling you no or questioning, or you're having to stand up for what you do bring to the table, that's when you're going to become more successful and realize that those limits that you set on your own goals are what you put there in your own way.
That's right. That's exactly it. So let's just say that you're able to increase your average commission by a little bit. We're going to assume in this case that you're 50% buyer, 50% seller, and that your buyers, you're stuck at 2.5%, right? Because that's just what we get offered and what we get paid. And let's assume you can get your average seller to 3%, right? So if you sign a 6% listing, that'd be 3.5%. Assume that you're not going to be Elise Palacios just hitting grand slams right off the rip and signing all 6% listings. Let's say half of them are 6%, half of them are 5%. And so your average between your buyers and sellers and all that stuff, you're able to get this up by 10% as well. You're able to get that up to 2.75%. Now, all of a sudden, that number has dropped to 27 sales, a lot easier than 33. All right, let's play with brokerage split. You're worth it, right? So again, in that same, kind of vein of thought of value and what you're worth, it may be worth a conversation with your broker about commission. Now's a good time of year to do that. And let's say you go to them and you're saying, I want 90, and they say no, and you guys go back and forth. I don't know how that works, but you settle at 80%. And that's just where you guys end up. And let's say you get to an 80% brokerage split. Now that has taken you down to just 24 sales per year from 33. So I don't know about you. So I work really hard because I like being lazy. I'm like the hardest working lazy guy you've ever met. So for me, it's all about these little tweaks, right? What do we end up doing? We got our average sales price up by getting rid of some buyers that are going to whatever, maybe be a little bit harder, and going after higher price sellers. Then we worked on ourselves. We sharpened our skills a little bit. We did some scripting, worked with Elise and figure out how she's signing 6% listings. So we got that up a little bit, right? Not crazy. And we talked to our broker and we said, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Broker, I'm going to sell 30 homes this year. And last year I did X. This year I'm going to do Y. Here's my plan for it. I think I deserve an 80% split. They're either going to go for it or not. It doesn't really hurt to have that conversation. So I definitely would suggest that. And then the big one is there are a couple brokerages, like I said, that have adjusting cap models. So for example, at EXP, we have a $16,000 cap. So that means that you're 80-20 until you pay the broker $16K. And you can just see really quickly, that brings it down to 20 sales per year. So this isn't about like join this brokerage or that brokerage or anything like that. It's about you advocating for what you're worth and what you deserve as an agent. So yeah, that's that. And as I pull up the deck, Elise, you want to take the next part?
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully we didn't lose you guys too much with the numbers there. It is far more interesting when it's your own numbers right in front of you. So Lou's going to pull up as soon as he's got it back. We'll show you a QR code at the end. If you do want to run through your own numbers, it takes a few minutes. And if you've already kind of got your rough plan out for the next year, having that little bit of time with that wonderful spreadsheet, that's not so simple. But again, he is the laziest, hardworking guy. So that spreadsheet now saves how much time working with all of the agents that you work with, and even your own business plan is just unreal.
Yeah, it's fun because it ends up, you can actually focus on the business and not just get bogged down in math. So here it is. I finally got the slide deck up. So scan this QR code. This will take you to my Calendly and schedule a 15-minute call. It's literally all it will take. I'm not going to nerd out on you too much and get into the back end on stuff, but just scan that and we'll keep on rocking. We've also got the QR codes at the end though.
So this goal is, again, a little bit looser, set a little bit more focused on how to become an actual business owner. We've had so many agents come to us this past year asking specifically about investing. And some of them have already invested a couple of times before. Some are just getting started. So if your goal is to either incorporate leverage or begin investing in your business over the next year, this would be an example format to plug into the plan formula. I will begin leveraging my skill set by starting a team and or investing by the end of 2024. I will meet this goal by learning how to invest. Step 1, building leadership skills and determining what tasks in my business should be leveraged. I will track my progress by adding and completing tasks to my calendar and finding a mentor or accountability. All very, very important details. The first thing, my first answer to anybody who's looking to get into investing is figure out what you're investing. Is it a single family, multifamily, commercial, plaza, commercial real estate? Is it, are you looking only to invest in the neighborhood that you're familiar with? Are you going to be getting a loan? Do you have cash? Do you have a partner? How is this happening? All of those questions are the very, very, very first thing. And if you don't know any of those, that's the first step, because every investor eventually gets to a point where they're like, hey, I'm down to hear what the numbers work. But when you're first getting started, you at least have to have an idea of where you're looking. Otherwise, you're never going to get to that scenario of being able to run the numbers to see if something new and creative has come up.
And I love that you started with this, Elise. I'll hop in for a second before you go to the next action slide. But when I saw the slide deck that you created and I saw the slide, I'm like, man, that makes so much sense that you didn't just go right into the actions you're going to take. You're giving our agents specific questions that they need to ask and explore to get clear on what their end goal is before they can even create actions. Because what point is it? And what's the point in making a roadmap if you don't know where you're going? I mean, you got to kind of set the compass first. And so then I thought about it just within my own career, and I've got about 24 rentals. Most of them are in West Hartford, and everybody knows that I buy multifamilies in West Hartford. And I've gotten deals off market because people come to me. They're like, "Hey, I know this is your product. This is something you want." I am laser focused on that to the point where I'm selling something that's in another town because it just doesn't fit within my niche. So it's really important you get very, very clear on this, and you want to do that from the very, very start.
And I love that you mentioned having that part of mentorship and accountability is about asking questions, because somebody can come to us and say, hey, how do I invest? Or is this a good deal? Should I do it? And it's like, I don't know, it's not my money. If we want a partner, then I can go into it a little bit more. But the reality is that you have to ask yourself those questions before anybody can give you advice or any sort of direction. So once you have the rough work done, whether that's thinking or actively learning and figuring out what works for you, the next step is then kind of narrowing down where that mentorship can tie into what you already have roughly planned out. And then the first step here, I'd say, would be pretend you are actively searching for an investment property. So once you have an idea of where you're looking, set up an actual MLS search, check the email updates, see who's selling these, reach out to that agent after it's already under contract or sold. What type of terms were on those offers? Was it an experienced investor purchasing? Was it an owner occupant? Which is a really, really important question, because if you start seeing, wow, that property sold for crazy over asking, is that where investment properties are going right now? And you call and you realize that it's an owner occupant who wants to live next door to their mom. So doing that research, you're going to become more comfortable with the process of it. Run the numbers as if you were about to offer. Look up recently closed rentals, look up active listed rentals, apartments.com, Zillow, see what's out there, see if the numbers make sense. And this is all make-believe, so it's a lot easier, no pressure. You're finding out the price points that these are going for, the type of offers you need to submit. And eventually, I honestly think a little bit of FOMO will set in, and this will help motivate you once you start seeing that all of these other people, whether it's maybe your own clients or, which might come up if you're not ready to buy now. My next task would be tell your friends, clients, family that you are actively looking for an investment property in West Hartford that's a 3 or 4 family. Once you have that narrowed down and people know what you're looking for, then when they think of something that's coming up, maybe whether it's off market or on market, they're going to be calling you, which is really, really great, because worst case scenario, once you're doing this, you have friends and family calling you saying, hey, I've got a deal. So worst case, you're putting together an off market situation, whether by calling one of us, your agent circle, your past clients who are investors. So even if you're not ready, this will still help your business. So
I'm going to pause the objection handle, something that comes up with agents all the time. If you have questions, by the way, drop them in the chat. We'll do the best we can to answer them as we're going. If we can't get to them during the webinar, worst case scenario, we'll give you a call tomorrow and answer your question, right? So drop your questions in the chat, but I'm going to get ahead of one right now. I don't have any money to buy an investment property. How do I get enough money to do that? I can't do this until I have money. No, absolutely not. That is bullshit. You can find money when you find the right deal. And I promise you that the money is out there when you find the right deal. This is a big mindset shift that I had a few years back, about 4 years ago. I'd gone full-time in real estate. I had one flip going. I had another bird deal that I was working on. I was tapped out of cash. I found another deal. I stopped looking for deals. I'm sorry. And my mentor said, well, why'd you stop? What's your goal this year? And I'm like, I stopped because I don't have any money. He's like, doesn't matter. Find the deal, then you'll find the money. And he was absolutely right. I found another deal and I ended up figuring out a creative way to finance it. There are tons of ways that you can do deals, and that's not what this seminar is about. But in the chat, if you want to hear more about real estate investing, drop that in the chat. We've got some stuff we can send you that'll help you out for sure.
Absolutely. And the next step then would be, yes, there's creative ways, but if you are realizing that you do want to get a loan, you're not comfortable partnering, or you're not comfortable really stepping outside of those lines and getting creative, schedule a call to speak with one of the lenders that you recommend. Tell them, hey, I'm going to waste your time for about a half hour. When I am ready, I'll probably be calling you. But right now, I just want to spitball and see what works. Use one of the addresses that you've already run the numbers for that you know would have been a good investment had you offered. Give them the address, run the numbers, get an idea of what your payment would have been. And another thing is, as you're sitting there figuring out what type of property you want to invest in, you have to realize, is this going to be a full gut job? Am I only comfortable doing, cosmetic updates? You need to figure out how much money you're going to have beyond your down payment, or, whether you're doing a cash purchase. You need to know what type of renovations you might come across and how much money you roughly need for that as well. Plus, anytime you're doing any sort of investing, you do need a little bit of a safety net just in case, your hot water heater breaks and it's unexpected, or your furnace dies. You do have people who you are housing, and you have to be comfortable enough to be able to pay for those things should they come up. So yes, you can absolutely stretch, get creative if you're not quite ready, but you do at least need to have some sort of idea of how to face those objections and issues that if and when they do come up. Because as we all tell our clients, home ownership has its, joys and its downfalls.
I wish I were making this up for the sake of drama, but I had a boiler kick yesterday. I'm not making this up. We had it fixed twice last week. I don't know what they're doing, putting together with like bubble gum and shoestrings, and they ran out.
No.
All of a sudden my partner calls me and he's like, yeah, this thing's gone. It's going to be $8,500. And we just put a roof on another building that LLC owns 2 properties. We just put a roof on the other building, but guess what? Thankfully, we had money saved. We were ready for that. So we could pop 20 grand in a year and be okay.
Absolutely.
We're happy about it, but we're okay.
Well, you're unhappy, but at least that's something that's just a part of running a business, which is what this is all about, is that these things don't just happen and fall into place. And it's not all about like those YouTube videos and books you read where, it just works once you have an idea of it. It's like, no, you have to plan a little bit for the unexpected, even if you are super prepared and ready to go. But a big part of all those steps is really preparing your mindset to become comfortable with the idea that you are an investor. If you're telling your friends you're actively doing the things that an investor does, guess what? You are an investor. You're just not currently purchasing. Just because I just sold my multifamilies doesn't mean I'm not actively an investor. So if I were to go and tell people that I was looking for some sort of property, I'm not lying. And neither are you. You have the skill set. You have a lot of the knowledge already. You've probably helped investor clients already in the past. You know what to expect. You know the numbers. Just start doing it and start practicing so that when you are ready to take that leap and actually make an offer, you're going to be so much more comfortable with the idea of it.
And that's one of the things that is valuable about a partnership too, is, if I like a deal, if I fall in love with a deal and Rob's looking at it objectively too, he'll tell me if I'm missing something and if I'm just falling in love with the property. Same thing will go with a good lender. So there's a lot of value in a lot of what you're saying here, at least for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Action number 2 is building leadership skills. Now you may say, I don't want to be a team leader. I don't want to have, 10 agents on my team or an organization of 50 or whatever it is. You're a leader whether you realize it or not. Every time you bring a buyer into a house, you are literally leading them into the house. So not just, you are also leading them. If you're touring them through the house properly, you are showing them everything about how the home works. You're teaching them about, a number of things. It's a whole other training, how a home works. You are all leaders is the point I was trying to make. Go down this rabbit hole. Now, this business plan assumes that you're an agent who's already been selling for, a couple of years. You've got a business that's going well. Maybe you're doing 8, 10, 12 million a year. You're successful by anybody's measure and account. And you're thinking, should I start a team or not? I've talked to so many agents who are here and they're stuck in this place because they don't know what to do. So we figured together a quick little example. First off, this action is all about building up your leadership skills, learning how to train, delegate, follow up, and scales. Task number 1. So that's kind of the basics of leadership. Task number 2 is having more conversations. Attending an event once per month doesn't have to be real estate related, but just an event to get yourself out there and be seen in the community and be a leader in the community. Talking to 5 agents per week, talking on social media to grow your following. Be a leader online. If you follow me, if you don't, follow me at Lou Raven on Instagram. I post, 5 videos or so a week that are about things that agents are struggling with, that are actively happening right now in the market. And I've sort of built this leadership reputation by, I mean, honestly, just talking about what I do every single day. But even if you're not doing that yet, just film a video about, hey, I had this hard situation with a client, blah, 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 this happened, and I worked through it, post it. People are going to get value from it. People are attracted to people who give value. So work on building your leadership skills, whether you're looking to build a team or you just want to expand in your own sphere. It's important that you kind of always upping your game and what you're capable of. You become a better leader, you're going to become a better salesperson. Action number 3, leverage is, man, it might be my favorite word. You know, if I had a favorite word, maybe it would be it. I love leverage when used properly. I think leverage is one of the least well-defined terms in real estate. We hear all the time, you know, if you read that red book and they talk about, oh, you need to get leverage. You need to get leverage to increase your business. Well, what does that actually mean? Leverage takes a couple different forms. You can leverage your capital by investing it well and by getting a loan to leverage the amount of property you can buy. I love leverage in that sense. You can leverage your time by hiring people and by basically buying more time for yourself and offloading a big chunk of your work. You can leverage tasks by automating, by deleting. That's a form of leverage. Looking at all of your task lists and saying, do I need to do all this stuff or not? You can leverage your time by using other people's talents. Whenever somebody's more effective at something than you, think about how you can partner up with them or how you can tap into their skill set and they can bring you value and help bring your business to a higher level. So the first task here is you want to define what's important and unimportant. This really actually starts with a brain dump of all the tasks that you're doing this. And I do this about once per year. And this year I did my brain dump and I came up with, I think, 42 different projects and areas of responsibility in my 3 businesses that I'm responsible for. And I'm like, holy shit, this is way too much. No wonder why I feel so burnt out. Sorry for the cursing, guys, but it's just how I was feeling at the time. And I was able to go through it and figure out, well, what can I just not do altogether? You know, it's the first thing I did was I trimmed off and I said, okay, LJ can do this, Joan can do this. Kath is already doing this, so I just need to formalize that and put it into her job description. And I got, I think, like 40 or 45% of the tasks off of my plate and onto theirs. After that, I went through the list and I said, okay, well, what are things that I need to keep that they can help me with and help prepare me for? And that was about another, 15 or 18% or something like that. So all of a sudden I looked at my workload, and more than 60% of the tasks I had a plan to leverage them out to other people. Now, the tricky thing about this is as you get rid of things, other things will backfill. And hopefully they're high impact activities. And when you do this correctly, you're going to have to continually do this. You should probably do it twice a year. I only do it once per year, but I'm constantly trying to take things off of my plate. That way I can work on the next best thing, the highest and best use of your time. I'm going to make this really, really simple for you. Write down every task that you do in a single week and then assign a dollar amount per hour to that task. And I'm talking everything to, from the detail of I go grocery shopping, I clean my house, I cut my lawn, I lead generate, I lead follow-up, I go on listing appointments, yada, yada, yada. You get the point. Hopefully you get the point I'm trying to make, is that these first few tasks that I mentioned are extremely high dollar per value. We don't go to the grocery store anymore because we can pay for, it's not Postmates, whatever else it does to get groceries. I don't know. I don't even know. It's late. Hiring out lawn, hiring out cleaning. So that way you can replace that time with something that's more effective. Now that's a trick. If you're just going to get lazy, then you're just going to end up burning a bunch of money. But if you're replacing that time with something like lead generating, which is like a $250 per hour or more, or hanging out with my 9-month-old, that's an infinite return. I mean, I can't get that time back. So I'm always trying to scale. I'm always trying to buy time back. And I'm always trying to add new opportunities to the business with that found time. Coming down towards the end here, this is the monthly habit tracker. And this is where a lot of people fall short. I see agents all the time that come to me with really good business plans. We'll talk through them. I'll give them some advice and we'll tweak. And I'll follow up a month later or 2 months later and ask how things are going. And I find that people end up getting pulled back into just the busyness of running our businesses and they don't stick to their plan. So how do you stick to your plan? You use some simple systems to keep you on track. So this I stole from, I think it was from Atomic Habits, just this monthly habit tracker that they have at the back of the book. So simple. Left column, you write down the habit it is, that you want to, put into place. And then you just go through and you check off, check mark if you did it, leave it blank if you didn't. What I like to do is I'll draw lines in here to make sure that I'm like clearly breaking weeks apart. So that way I know, okay, this is, Sunday to Saturday, right? So you can easily see, am I lead generating Monday, Wednesday, Friday, like I said?
Spreadsheet. Spreadsheet.
What's that?
So you're making your own spreadsheet out of the spreadsheet.
Yeah. Optimizing, I guess. So some examples of habits that would go on here from our business plan. If you think about your sales business, you could put hosting open houses on there, posting your educational content once per week, posting content for agents once per week from your leadership plan. What else, Elise? What else would go on here? Running deals every single morning, going through the MLS.
Checking back in your calendar to see if you've actually are following it and using it. And if you're having tasks go in there and you're not doing them, don't put them in there. Only put in what you are actually following. So I think a time to reflect to see if you're actually doing that is also fantastic. Just as much as you're checking off those actual habits and tasks, actually go back and make sure you're doing simply what's in your calendar every day.
That's right. And that's a part of our calendar and time management class as well, which is really, I think, the second step in all of this is making sure you have great systems, great calendar that makes sense with the right, most effective activities in it at the beginning of your day, that you have really good systems for tracking your tasks, making sure that you're prioritizing well, that you're following up on what you've delegated. That's really step 2 to all this. It's a whole separate class that we have. Drop in the chat, I don't know, put calendar in the chat or something if that's something you think would be helpful. We've got recordings of that. I can send those to you easily. When I teach stuff like calendar, I'm like, man, this is so boring. I don't know who wants to sit through this stuff, but hey, I love it, but whatever. I'm a nerd. So so to your point, Elise, plan to plan. That's a big, big part of that training.
Yes. So to wrap it up, here are the links to our calendar. When we do events like this, we kind of give an opportunity or we give a little bit of our time. A lot of people ask if we do one-on-one coaching, and our answer is always, we're kind of in this tricky spot where we love to give back to the agent community. That's what hosting our in-person events, that's what these webinars are. But we do also have a really, really wonderful advantage of working with EXP, as they essentially pay us to coach the agents who are a part of our team on there. So if you are interested in looking and hearing more about what that actually looks like to work with us, when we create business plans with the agents we mentor or teams with Agent Fast Track, there's tons of trainings that we have already recorded, already actively doing, but we do also have a time where we're truly diving in deep to your business, because again, this is just really hitting the surface of a lot of what you could be incorporating into your business. Some probably didn't resonate with you, and maybe a lot of it did. So regardless, this is tip of the iceberg. There is a lot more to it, and we love, welcoming new agents and into our team and support system. And if you're just here to see this one webinar, that's all right as well. But if you'd like more information, shoot us a message, hop on one of our calendars. We're happy to tell you a little bit more about what that looks like.
Yeah, and also that income calculator one, doesn't matter if you want to talk about EXP or not. I don't care. If you just want help running your numbers, hit me up on that. This is about providing value and education to the agent community. If you like what you saw tonight, let us know that. And if you didn't like that, what you saw, then go away and don't come back. No, let us know what we could do to improve. Because we
also love more topic ideas like this specifically. Was kind of a result of our in-person event. We were asking people, what they wanted to hear more about, what they wish we could have expanded more on in person. So that's what all of this is about, is we're giving you what you asked for. So if you're planning on coming to another webinar in the future, shoot a topic that you'd like some more information on in the chat, and we'll try to get to as many as possible. A lot of them kind of work together, so we can hit maybe 4 of the topics with one webinar series.
Yep. And you guys will get a thank you email, respond with whatever you think that will be helpful, including time of night would be another helpful thing. I thought that we would have more attendance than noon on Wednesday webinar than now, but we legitimately have like 5x the attendance on this one of what we did before. So I'm like, all right, it's the end of the day. I'm tired. I gotta get revved up. 7 o'clock at night, that might just be it. And we're cool with it.
I went to bed at 8 last night.
Yeah, I'm not far behind that tonight, I don't think. So anyway, guys, thank you very much. We love you. We appreciate you hanging on until the very end. Hope you guys have an awesome rest of the week. Happy holidays.